p.m. If everybody would please mute their microphones, and only turn your mics on when you're gonna speak, but please keep your cameras on. Make sure you mute your cell phones. When you speak, please announce your name so the names can be recorded for the record. Item B, roll call and certification of quorum. Carmen Marshall. By the way, Carmen, we would all like to wish you a very happy birthday that you had last week. So,
Appreciate it. Thank you. You ready for the roll call, sir?
yes, ma'am.
Jason Polk.
Here.
Melody Green.
Here.
Tommy Duncan Jr.
Here.
Veronica Uriegas.
Here.
Floyd Olive.
Here.
Audrey Walter.
Here.
Victor Kirkendall.
Here.
Casey Jackson. And presiding officer Trace Smith.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Wonderful. All right. Going on to item C, approval of the minutes from the meeting back in April. Does anyone have any comments regarding the meetings on April the 9th? All right, we have none. I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes as presented. Harmon? Call the roll, please. ma'am.
Second? Who seconded it?
Yes.
I said.
Jason Polk. Melody Green. Tommy Duncan Jr.
Aye.
Veronica Uriegas.
Aye.
Floyd Olive. Audrey Walter.
Aye.
Victor Kirkendall.
Aye.
And presiding officer Trace Smith.
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right. Going on to item D, public comment. We have 0 public comment for today. So we can skip on down to E, the agency update. And that's gonna be Madonna, with Terrible Bingo Operations Division. And Sergio Ray.
Good morning.
One
Seth Gilray, interim deputy executive director of lottery and charitable bingo operations. Want to kick off the agency updates to note that as required by statute, the agency has submitted and has posted the agency's strategic plan with its goals, redundancies and impediment section. And as you may all know, this is the initial part in requirements and preparations for the next legislative session. So you can find this report in our website, external website, and available for you all for review. Coming up shortly will also be the second part of the strategic plan, which is all the supplemental schedules that comprise the strategic plan. And I'll pass it on to LaDonna.
Morning, everybody.
Morning.
So about the division, our staffing is still an issue. We did hire a new auditor in Houston, Latoya Robinson. So you'll probably be seeing her around, some of you, as she's being trained and visiting your places. At 6 vacancies, we are now 20% down on staff. I did issue a couple of emails earlier this month to all of our boss contacts on June 10th. The topic of the email was bingo related game machine information. And then on June 16th, an email about how to report charitable distributions on Form 129 for conductor. Both communications were sent in, the purpose was hopefully to clean up some confusion that we've been seeing out and about. Neither email represents any new policies or procedures. On June 18th, the Bingo Interest Group, Texans for Charitable Bingo and Texas Charity Advocates sent an email to their industry contacts in support of my June 10th email about game machine, bingo related issues for game machines. And I want to state my appreciation for that message in support. And then my last note is to just say that tomorrow is my 5th year anniversary. And I just want to say I've been enjoying it and I'm happy to be here.
Well, we certainly appreciate that. We're glad you made it this far. Don't quit the race yet,
Not a guarantee.
right? Anything else?
That's it for me.
Okay, any questions? Okay, moving on to item F. I'm gonna call on Assistant General Counsel Terry Van Oy.
Trace, I do have one more.
Texas Department of Law.
Yes, ma'am.
I wanted to introduce the division's interns. They're
Okay.
here this summer. Aisha Alazawi and Tanner Ludwig, and they're sitting right there next to Marie, between Marie and Karen. They've been doing a
Pleasure
great
to have
job.
y'all and
And
welcome.
also happy to be here.
Yeah, pleasure to have y'all and welcome, and feel free to reach out to any of us if you have questions. We're a pretty open group of people, so we can help you see things from both sides. We'd be glad to do that.
All right, thank you very much. We appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely. Terry Van Oy.
Yes,
it is
thank you,
yours.
thank you. Good morning, members. Carmen provided you with the rule proposal package to review on June 19th. And this rule proposal amends several rules and adds one new rule, really to accomplish three goals. The first is to implement Senate Bill 3070, which you're all familiar with. The second really is to streamline rules consistent with the purpose and goals of Senate Bill 14. And the goals there are to really eliminate duplicate text found in statute, eliminate rule text that is unnecessary or unenforceable, and third, to use plain English and standard terminology to improve readability. Lastly, we also updated and clarified certain terms or processes to increase transparency. For example, in 141.101, advisory opinions, we clarified the steps in the process, several of those. And then in section 141.453, we provided some examples of force majeure. As two examples of what we tried to do in this package. Our goal is to have this rule package on the October 6, 2026 commission meetings agenda for approval to adopt. To do that, though, we've got a number of steps, right, that we need to accomplish. The proposed rules must be published in the Texas Register. The target date to submit that proposal is Monday, July 6th, so it's right around the corner. And it would be published in the July 17th Texas Register. If we get that done, the public comment period would be 30 days, and that would end on August 17th. This committee could review any public comments, providing you hold a meeting kind of within that time period, really before September 15th, which is the deadline for me to get that material to the person who consolidates that material for the commissioners, right? Because they need some time to review it before their October 6th meeting. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. So we don't have to go through all of these, correct?
I don't believe so unless you want to. I, given the link the agenda this morning,
In the consideration of time, I would encourage you to read these if you've got any comments. I've read them. At this time, I don't have any objections to them.
Okay.
We are looking for a motion and a second to recommend that these rules be presented as they're written now to the Texas Register.
Mr.
Before we
Chairman,
read them,
I have a question, if I may. Stephen Fenolio, attorney, represent Texas Charity Advocates. The draft that I saw, and I'm sorry, I didn't bring my extensive comments, but it says y'all are still reviewing them. Correct?
Correct. This is a proposal stage.
I understand, but you're gonna publish them July 6th, as I heard you.
That's our goal.
Right. And it seemed a little disjointed to me that you wanted us to comment while you're still revising. And then if I also heard you, I didn't write the dates down, but the deadline for comments is sometime in mid-August. Is that correct?
August 17th.
August
Correct.
17th.
Again, assuming we get them
Understood,
submitted to Texas. And that, yeah, that's a proposal. So it'll be a 30-day comment period. you
which
could
would
comment.
end presumably August 17th.
Mhm.
But then you just said that the BAC could comment up to September 15th.
Yes.
But
on
the comment
comments.
period has ended
Correct.
August 17th. So what am I missing?
You can provide input on the comments we received. If you believe the comments are valid, if that may cause you to have some other ideas. It's really about your opportunity to review those comments as a group.
But the BAC, if they
BAC.
didn't make a comment, how, under the law, how can you receive comments after the comment period is closed? In the past, this agency has taken the position that once the comment period is closed, that's the end of comments.
And I apologize, I should not have used the word comment. We can take the input, which will then be reflected when we go to the commission meeting. Deanna?
I'm sorry,
Mr.
what's the
Cornelio,
difference
if I
between
can-
input and comment?
If I can respond to that, this has to do with the rulemaking process that we are currently following. The rulemaking, the rules as they are drafted before they are published are brought to the Bingo Advisory Committee. And they are entitled to accept them, to vote on them, to approve them. And then we publish them. That opens up a 30-day comment period for the public. Then once those comments come back, we then represent them and discuss the comments and any changes that might be needed based on the comments with the BAC. All the advisory boards at TDLR get 2 opportunities most times to look at rules. It's the BAC, not public comment, we're taking after that point. So the BAC can discuss the public comments, agree, they can recommend to revise, but again, in their advisory position, their comments, they're not changes. What they're looking at, and what they recommend will then go to the commissioners, and the commissioners will be able to decide what they want to approve and adopt. Does that make sense?
Sort of, but if the comment period is closed,
It's the comment period. Yes, the comment period is closed, but they're the advisory committee. They are entitled to give us feedback and to recommend that we make any changes. We're going to discuss it with them before we take it to the final to the commissioners for adoption.
I apologize, I was not aware of the TDLR policy.
We are
as opposed to,
TDLR.
Lottery. Okay,
Yeah,
Thank you.
so I'd be consolidating any comments we get, providing that to you in a redacted form, and then you guys can take a look at that and decide, you know, if there's
Gotcha.
additional input that you'd like to provide.
Gotcha. Okay.
And if I'm not mistaken, were these emailed to us already?
Yes.
Yes, they were.
So our next meeting should be after August 17th.
That would be ideal.
Okay.
So we
Yeah,
can
we're-
comment on the comment.
Our next meeting is scheduled for
Yeah.
September,
I read
17th,
that.
we'll get to that in the agenda.
Okay.
Yeah.
so we need a motion. And
Do you want to?
Well, are we just making a motion? to
We're just
publish
making a
them?
motion to recommend that they publish these in the Texas Register.
All right, I'll make a motion to recommend.
I'll second. Second.
Comments in Texas law?
Yeah.
Jason Polk. Melody Green. Tommy Duncan Jr. Veronica Urias.
Aye.
Floyd Olive.
Aye.
Audrey Walter.
Aye.
Victor Kirkendall.
Aye.
And presiding officer Trace Smith.
Aye.
Motion passes.
That was fun.
All right, okay, item G, update on the bingo operating services system and bingo service portal. Database updates required by Sunset Management Action 2.5 regarding prioritization of IT updates and the elimination of paper-based processes in CPOD. We have the IT lottery and charitable bingo director, Jason Kennedy.
Good morning. Jason Kennedy, I'm the lottery and charitable bingo IT director. The short update for you today, the IT division, we've been making steady progress on building out the BOSS application, which is the internal application used for bingo. And we've kind of moved on to heavy development of the ESP application, so the outward-facing user application. We have a large list of features we're building based on the feedback we got from Sunset and the ESP and the usability study from the BAC. So we're working internally with the bingo staff to make sure we get that basic functionality developed. And secondly, just want to mention today, we're working on a plan for a kind of like a closed data test eventually that we'll get to. It's probably several months down the road before we can get some of the user community to help us validate the features and functionality. So I'll be bringing a plan maybe to the meeting, or maybe an external communication asking for help targeting some users in the community. So that'll be an important piece for us to make sure we're on the right track. ESP, get some additional feedback there.
I do have one small question. Trevor, you may have stated this and I just missed it. The BAC provided a extensive report
Correct.
on that last. Are y'all still looking at that as well?
We have taken the response that the subcommittee had provided, the ESP usability study for requests for changes to ESP, and that is absolutely going to be incorporated into the new ESP.
Awesome. Well, we greatly appreciate that. I know the subcommittee did a lot of work on that. We do appreciate that.
And lastly, just an open call for feedback or comments. Like I mentioned last time, if you all have any comments or feedback, things that maybe were missed or you want us to think about for the new ESP, you can provide them to Carmen Marshall or to Madonna directly, or there's also to contact us on the txbingo.org website, or you can send it directly to the
Thank you very much. We appreciate that.
No problem.
Before we get to item H, I would like to say thank you to all the subcommittee members and to the general public that helped on this subcommittee, on each of the subcommittees. I'd like to thank the staff, Sergio, appreciate you attending to this. It's been a big help. I know it's a lot of extra work that we're all not used to having to do. But I think the committee report definitely identify a lot of things, and we're very pleased with the effort, and we appreciate everybody. Item H, discussion and update on subcommittee report. Fiscal year 2026 work plan number 3. Research and identify methods of play in other states to help promote new ideas to increase attendance and charitable distributions. Tommy Duncan, better up, sir.
Well, I want to thank everybody on this committee, Mr. Bresden, Ann, Floyd, and Jason. So in our meetings, we identified some issues. Charitable bingo continues to experience declining attendance and increased competition. The last technology implement that we have gotten was in 1994. That's the last time. We are terribly behind the other states. So, and some of this stuff improves the auditing, the tracking, it's all digital. It would be really good. Some of these things have to be done legislatively, of course, but there's a couple of things that can be done with just a simple rules change. So we put a few recommendations together, we could have done 50 things, but we chose 4. So the first one is the credit playback. The current law allows several types of regular bingo games already approved in Texas that as a practical matter cannot function under the current rule. 16 TAC 141.323. So what we would like you to do is look at subsection M 1 through 3, and all we have to do is eliminate those 3 items, and it would allow us to play the credits back on the card minder. So if somebody's buying bingo cards on there, they can play their credits back to buy more. It's too labor intensive to cash out, reload. It's a lot of work. And we currently have games approved that this would help the charities immensely. That's number 1. Raffles, we're allowed to do a couple of raffles a year, but we want to look at doing different raffles inside the bingo hall with raffle tickets. So, at a later date, if somebody really wants to dive into that, we can bring examples, and all we're trying to do is increase opportunities, just fill up the toolbox. That's what we're trying to do. In other states, they allow progressive bingo. So what that is, some states allow up to a $20,000 to $25,000 bingo game, a progressive game. outside the purview of the 5,000. So it's separate accounting, same bank account, but there are rules that allow, you know, they can run up to 3 a week in some states. We could do 1 a week, but it would build every day, you know, and there would be a finite way to get it done. But that would obviously have to be done legislatively. And then on the last, what would really help the industry more than anything is a tab minder. We have a card minder that we've taken paper cards, put them on a card minder to allow the player to play. All a tab minder is taking paper tab, moving it over to the tab minder. It would be easy for TDLR or auditors or anybody to track everything. You already have access to the servers. This would be no different. You could get in anytime, look at anything. This would need to be done legislatively, but it could be done. I think it needs to be done for charitable bingo. It would increase attendance. And, you know, as far as LaDonna's email about other things, maybe it helps in that area, but it'll bring more people in the bingo hall. Because we can play these things, you know, 6 hours a session. So we just did 4 bullet points. We could go, like I said, we could go on. If anybody has any questions, I'll be happy to try to answer. We put no numbers with anything. We're just not to that point yet. We just want to let you know what's out there. And, but the credit playback, I think we should address that. It's a simple rules change, whatever the process is for that. And we could start there.
Thank you, Tony. Y'all did a good job on that. Y'all really.
Of course we did.
All righty. Okay, moving on to to item number 2, fiscal 2026 work plan number 4. Identify methods and opportunities for the industry to raise awareness of the role and contributions charitable bingo makes in Texas. Tom Stewart, you compiled a presentation for this. Do you want to give us the highlights on this? Sure. And what this is done, what we've seen is the drop in attendance over the years and several other things. And Tom took time out of his own day to work on this and present this.
Tom Stewart on behalf of Texas Charity Advocates, and this slide really encompasses the whole presentation, which you can look at. But the fundamental issue that has really challenged charitable bingo over the last several years is a shrinking attendance base. Tommy addressed that in the previous report, but it's huge, and that's the long-term risk. We've got gross revenue increasing by higher spend by fewer players. And rebuilding attendance is really the only scalable lever that we have left. Scalable meaning something that we can do broadly among the general public to try to stop the decline and steer it back towards an increase. And we, Texas Charity Advocates, have actual and modeled investments that can show significant upside for the general public good, meaning both in terms of revenue generated, net proceeds for the charities, and then the resources that are generated for the state and for local governments. If you'll move down to the next slide. This really just shows the issue, right? So I looked at data going back to 2006, so the last really 20 years, and we see over that time period sort of a steady decline, but not, you know, it's small changes. And then, of course, you see the COVID year, right? We discount that, but the bounce back wasn't here, it was here. And we're declining from that. So where last year we fell for the first time under 10 million in attendance. That's the issue that we're trying to turn, is to get us back up to at least that kind of level. If you'll move on to the next slide. And I won't go through all of this, but shows you prizes won or up. So this, the blue bar is gross revenue, prizes paid, right? So as gross revenue has increased among a shrinking player base, prizes paid are going up. It needs more money to the state and local governments because their share, that 5% prize fee, is based on prizes paid out. Go to the next slide. When we first looked at last year's revenue, we thought for the first time, it was the first time that state and local revenue, these two bars put together, exceeded. But the truth of the matter is, the state and local prize fee revenue has exceeded what the charities received over 7 of the last 20 years. Almost a third of the time, the state and local governments collect more than the charities themselves. That's not really why the legislature passed the Bingo Enabling Act all those years ago. Next slide. If you dig down into the revenue, what you see here is that revenue per player, 2006 was this number. It's almost tripled. Net proceeds has gone up on a per player basis, but not at the same rate. Side. So in 2025, the per player visit was $95. I don't know what the cap is, but we probably reached that cap at 9.5 million player visits. We're probably pretty close to the cap, but here's where that money went. $74 went right back into the player's pocket. $1.76 or 2% is the state fee. And then it works out to about 1% for the local fee. The charities get about 3%, and the remaining amount, of course, is operational expenses to do business. Next slide. What I took away is that growth in the growth in gross revenue masks the attendance decline. We're basically monetizing that player that we have out there and squeezing every last bit of juice that we can get out of it. At some point, we hit a ceiling. I don't know when that is, but I think we're getting pretty close to it. Next slide. Again, that just makes the point that the charitable proceeds and government revenue, it's basically structurally constrained, except for the state and local government part. The more in prize fees, their money's sustained. But the charities are structurally constrained without addressing the attendance issue by growing their net proceeds. Next slide. Again, attendance is really the only scalable lever. Awareness, what we found in our market research, which we did in the late teens, is really the only scalable lever we have to address the attendance issue. We don't have a problem with the game. The game's fun. People like it. It's quite unique. You know, some people like Coke. Some people don't like Coke. Some people like Pepsi. Some people don't like Pepsi. We can't find anybody who doesn't conceptually like the game of bingo. Our issue is top of mind. When you think about where you're going to go on a Friday or a Saturday night to entertain yourself, bingo just isn't top of mind. an awareness campaign can address that. If you can move to the next slide. We tested this in 2022 with the help of the distributors and the manufacturers. We put together $100,000 investment, and these are the incremental results of that investment. It was all focused on digital advertising. And what we found, we were able to attract 14,500 visits into a charitable bingo hall. That represents 1.3 million in gross revenue, 41,000 in net proceeds, 18,000 and a half, 23,000 in local revenue, state and local revenue. The net of all that, on a gross basis, the $100,000 investment was 13 times. The return was 13 times the investment. Next slide. And so taking those results and then modeling, if you invested 2.5 million, you get greater results, 363,000 visits, 27 million in gross revenue. That's 988,000 in net proceeds. And then the local and state government revenue. And if you go to the next slide, and let's go one more. If we have a sustained investment of $2.5 million over a 5-year period, our break even is in year 3, and we're net positive after that. And if you go to the next slide, I think this is where you begin to see cumulative results. Within 1 to 2 years, we're back at 10 million. And over 3 to 5 years, we're in that 12 million range. So we begin to right the ship with an awareness campaign that's sustained and supported over a period of time. Next slide. And so I think the decision for the industry is encapsulated here. We can do nothing, get overwhelmed by the competition, both legal and illegal. Attendance continues to decline. Charitable proceeds at some point continues to decline. And that governmental revenue stagnates. Or we can invest. Multi-year investment, increased gross revenue, prizes paid, increased net proceeds. So our recommendation, and one of the things that we'll be looking to do this next legislative session, is to create a nonprofit, take a slice of the prize fee that goes to local governments to fund it, and then create, implement, and manage an awareness campaign that delivers long-term benefits for the charities and for the general public good. And I think the next slide's the last slide. I think the biggest risk is we don't make this kind of investment and we just lose more players. The biggest risk is not doing it. And then there's an addendum in this presentation that covers, has all the data that the numbers in the presentation are based on.
Thank you, Tom.
And I'm not sure what we asked this committee to do. Because I know y'all are limited in terms of what you can advocate for, certainly what the agency can advocate for, but I guess as much as anything, there's a way to do this. And I think we're going to pursue that legislatively.
Well, I know we can't advocate for legislation as the BAC, but it's certainly good to have the understanding of what's going on in our industry, and knowledge is power. And I think individually, we can all do our part, whether we agree with this presentation or not. We can all do our part. So, thank you. Somebody else that helped on this quite a bit was Steve Bresnan from the Bingo Interest Group. Steve, I think you have a draft bingo promotion plan to go over. Can you hear us?
You're on mute.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes,
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right, I don't know what's going on over here. I'm technologically deficient. So I just hit the highlights real quick. Tom, you did a great job describing the opportunity and the challenge. The object would be to create a nonprofit organization that could receive a limited percentage of the prize fees that would normally go to a local government. This would be a voluntary contribution from the bingo charities. There would be a statewide plan to promote in the public mind the purposes of charitable bingo, the types of charities that benefit, the kinds of locations, types of games, etc. And the statewide plan, after being approved, would then the nonprofit would then be authorized to accept funds for those from those organizations that wanted to contribute to it. You can see a list of things that the nonprofit could not do. It could not lobby. It couldn't affect political campaigns. It would have to stay in its lane by statute. So anyway, the object is to raise public awareness. As Tom stated, we know we have a model that, to the very great credit of the manufacturers, distributors, and others who contributed to the exercise, to creating the model. Very much appreciative. Really opened a lot of minds, I think. Tom Stewart deserves a great deal of credit for having had this idea. And then a number of us, including Steve Finolio and Chairman Smith and others, have put our heads together to try to create an entity and a mechanism for doing this. On behalf of the Bingo Interest Group, I think I can say also for TCA and Texas for Charitable Bingo, we're all interested in pursuing this, and we'll be talking to the legislature about it in the not too distant future.
Thank you, Steve. Any questions or comments about that?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
this is Stephen Finolio again. This does, the report about the dire straits of bingo, not the song group Dire Straits, but the dire straits of bingo, dovetails into Tommy's committee and his first recommendation about credit playbacks, which would attract more customers and keep more money in the bingo hall because of the velocity of being able to play. And I understand that the staff may not have a position on changing the rule, but there's a process under the Administrative Procedure Act by which an organization with statewide jurisdiction can petition for rulemaking. And so it will be my recommendation that TCA, along with our other partners, file a petition for rulemaking to eliminate subparagraph M 1-3 of the card minding standards. And again, given the was gradual decline, now it's pretty precipitous after COVID. That needs to be done sooner rather than later. The other things I think that Tommy has suggested, we're going to require legislation, and that the folks in the big pink building to decide.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
One of the things that Steve touched on, and I just want to add to this, is we've known about this attendance decline for years, and it's been on our radar for years. Fixing this decline is gonna take a multi-pronged approach. And I think, a lot of these, three of these, subcommittees are touching on that. And I think it's a multi-pronged approach. What it also tells me is that as our attendance declines, our retaining more money from less customers speaks well of our industry. And it says that we're trying to manage our industry as fiscally responsibly as possible. Like Tom said, we're squeezing more juice from the orange than there is orange. And that's a great testament to our industry. I know there's issues within the industry, but I do think that speaks well of our operators in the state. Any other comments? Okay, gonna go on to item 3, sunset recommendation 2.4. Subcommittee, we had several meetings on this subcommittee, and I know that we probably wore Sergio and his staff out. So thank y'all for the attendance on that. And thank you for paying attention. I'm not gonna read through the whole report. Everybody has it. You know, we identified several issues, but we have several recommendations as well. Some of these are obvious. You know, Victor helped a lot on this, so thank you, Victor. I'm not gonna go through the whole report. It's rather lengthy. There is a handout. I think Steve Fenolio, you wanted to touch on this?
Sure.
There's a handout. If you don't have it, and Carmen's gonna post it on screen. Basically, it goes through the parts 4 and I think this part 4. I think that this is probably still a work in progress. I know the staff's still working on this, and we're open to having more meetings on this subcommittee if needed. We definitely want to help the staff understand where we're coming from on this, because I know they have a job to do. They have to get their requirements done. So we're willing to chip in and help where we can.
Mr. Chairman, may I comment about this?
Yes, sir.
Okay, if I'm breaking into the middle of something, I can stand down until you're ready.
No, all you, sir.
Okay. What I attempted to do with these documents, these 3 pages, you can see there's a few gaps. I've noticed a couple of typos while I've been sitting here. So this is a work in progress, and I did not get this to the staff. I think I emailed it out late on Thursday after they'd all gone home. I'm in a time zone 2 hours behind, so I was playing catch up a little bit. And so effectively, staff didn't see this until Friday. And so if they have comments, of course, I don't want to cut those off. But it might be helpful if I just described what we did, paying attention to the subcommittee's meetings and conversation amongst industry folks, and paying close attention to Sergio's request that we provide suggestions, which I think is entirely a fair request to have been made. So what I did was I tried to go through the forms that had been presented at the start of this process and identify those things that were useful, that could be tied back to the Bingo Enabling Act and to rules that recognize that when an inspector or auditor shows up on site, they don't know the people there. They may not have a deep background in bingo operations. And so tried to achieve a balance. And these on part 4A, these 11 questions are followed at the bottom of page 2. Mr. Chairman, if you could, or whoever's operating that could scroll down. So these functions to be available, these were things with, out of all of these discussions, it appeared that these were things just that the inspector could observe. So they didn't really require a narrative from the bingo staff. And that seemed to be the biggest concern, was occupying the time of folks working in the hall while they're trying to get started, conduct the occasion, and then get stopped and get out of there, so personnel costs could be limited and disruption of the process could be limited. So those 7 things at the end of this second page are things that we think that the auditor can just view these. Just as a quick example, in the forms initially presented, the question was, are the pull tabs sold by the cashier, on the floor, or both? Well, that's subject to observation on any given moment. So that's what the purpose of these 6 items or 7 items there at the bottom of page 2 are. If you'll now scroll down to the 3rd page, please. So the forms originally passed out. There were a couple of sheets that required the filling in of serial numbers and data that's available from other sources and would not be readily subject to doing something on site at the time of the inspection. And so what I've done is suggested that the parts 4B and C be eliminated from the form, or that the form, since these are to guide the inspectors and the auditors, it just points that this information that was intended to be gathered by those 2 forms would be available from these other sources. And so trying to reduce redundancy, reduce things that have to be copied in detail and accurately on site by the auditor or somebody during an unannounced inspection. Now, if you scroll back up to, and there's the reasons for eliminating them are down there. If you go back to the top of the form, and I'll cut this short, top of the first page of the document. So in each one of these questions, what I've tried to do is give an example answer, and this is just from talking to a number of people who are on the operational side of things. The example answers are, as a practical matter, what's going to happen. I think it goes without saying, I hope, that we're talking about larger operations here that are the dominant factor in the industry as a whole. I think if you've got a veterans post that's a beer joint and is bingo's kind of an incidental thing happening 3 nights a week or something, you may have a less formal mechanism for handling those things, but they're still subject to the law. So somebody at that, I'm just stereotyping a veterans post that serves a lot of beer. Somebody there is going to be responsible, but they may not have somebody designated as, quote, the manager on duty. Scrolling, but it is fair for the auditor to know who those people are that are filling those roles. And why is it fair? Because those are the folks who, as a practical matter, are causing the conducting charity to be in compliance with the law. And if the auditor in subsequent follow-up determines that something's out of whack on, say, the inventory, looking at item number 3, who's responsible for inventory control during the occasion? Well, we're gonna know who the manager on duty and who the cashiers are at that time. And they'll have somebody to go back and look back to and follow up and know if that person did their job by way of complying with the Bingo Enabling Act and the rules. And I won't go through those one by one there, but what I try to do is isolate those things that would be useful to the auditor, include functions that are going to be central to compliance with the Bingo Enabling Act and the rules, and to provide some examples just by way of showing our thinking. I think item number 7 is of particular interest because it highlights that different halls are going to do different things, different ways of conducting themselves. And so I've given 2 examples there that come from talking to people in the industry, and then explained that in the comment at the top of the 2nd page. Mr. Chairman, rather than prolong this, everybody's just having a chance to look at this. So I'm going to stand down with the understanding and hope that this kind of suggestion, some details that support the suggestion will help us continue to conduct this conversation with the relevant bingo division staff that are trying earnestly to comply with the sunset recommendation.
Thank you, Steve. Any other comments or questions? Sergio?
Just wanted to take the opportunity to say that yes, after 3 meetings, written comments that we received at the end of last week from resident, and also almost 8 months of, working through this process with feet on the ground, there's definitely become some epiphanies, some realization of, some of the things that we need to look at. It is a new process. This part of it is a new process, and that, that we're looking at and, addressing and again, appreciate the collaboration, the feedback, the recommendations that y'all are providing, and the discussion. Specifically, or especially, it was very helpful to hear the conversation at the last meeting going question by question, and actually, we were talking about, things at a very high level and very, in trying to address things very globally. But when we went through that process of question by question, that provided a lot more clarity as far as the thought process of each question. So that to me was very helpful. So we will take all this information. We do see opportunities here of improvement, working with you all on a lot of the questions and concerns that y'all had. So as we go through this process, obviously the end goal, again, not just to check a box from the sunset requirements, but also, again, the big focus is fiscal responsibility and transparency of the bingo industry, and to make sure that, we're looking out for the end goal, like Tom mentioned earlier, our charitable organizations. So with that in mind, and making sure that people are compliant with statutory rules as well. So all that in mind. So the next step is taking all this feedback and addressing it and making the appropriate updates to the, our internal form and our internal process, and circle back, with the committee, and circle back with with the BAC, and provide more updates, whether at the committee level or here at the BAC meeting.
Well, we appreciate that very much. We really do.
Mr. Chairman, Mr.
And
Chairman,
you-
may I make one other comment
Yes.
about this? One of the things that I said during the one of the subcommittee hearings, I think needs to be emphasized for everybody, and everybody needs to internalize this message. I helped run a large state agency that collects, at the time it was collecting tens of billions of dollars for the state. So I have some sense of, at the operational level, about auditing, about collecting, about gathering information. And I also know what that takes. Our legislature has not properly funded the audit function of the Lottery Commission and now TDLR. And so those resources are very important. The people who are complying with the law do not want to have to compete against people who are cutting corners and not complying with the law and saving themselves money or cheating or stealing. We don't want that to happen. So in looking at this process for the unannounced visits and a stretched staff that's having to drive long distances over the state, I'm hoping that our focus will be on making it worthwhile to do the unannounced visit. There's a certain value of people just showing up unannounced, so everybody knows that there's a cop on the beat. But at the same time, the juice has to be worth the squeeze. And so I think what we've tried to do as an industry in presenting these ideas in the way we have is to try to increase the juice for the squeeze. But let's not forget, this agency has to have more money in order to fund this function and be able to retain people who are capable of auditing a retail cash operation over time. And the Bingo Interest Group and Texas Charity Advocates have always gone to the legislature. We've always testified about this. We've met behind the scenes with legislators. I don't want anybody to forget that the cops on the beat have to be paid well enough to learn the business, learn what they're doing, and then to retain them over time. And thank you for letting me get on my soapbox.
Thank you, Steve. Any other comment?
I've got one question. Are you still using this form right now for the unannounced visits? Are you doing those, or have you changed the form?
We have not changed the form at this juncture.
Would there be a problem, like, just fill this out quickly? If I had, or if the bingo hall just filled it out, because the answers, just like you said here, is gonna be cashier. And then like Vivian said in the beginning, they can look and see who is really doing these things. Wouldn't that help you a lot?
But as we've discussed through all these meetings, BAC meetings and the subcommittee meetings, there is a focus on, and I will echo the comment or the suggestion that the focus is to move a lot of these things over as observations.
Right.
People will be observing and documenting this information. They're not necessarily where it could be a question for the auditor to, hey, a reminder, you need to do this, it's an internal question, not a question that will be verbalized to the hall. And the answer will be picked up through an observation.
Any other questions, comments?
I had
No.
one, and I think, the one that answered all those questions at the end of that meeting. We didn't discuss part 5 of or Steve's handout did not. And there are several questions on petty cash. And most people consider petty cash, we've got to have a little money on hand. If we run out of some staples, go down to the office supply store, here's petty cash. It starts out total beginning petty cash amount, question 2 of part 5. Are you talking about what most people consider petty cash? It's not defined in your rules. Or are you talking about starting cash, the bank, for the occasion? Because I don't know if you're truly just interested in petty cash, I don't understand the focus, because that's kind of minor dollars as opposed to a starting bank.
As you can, yes, it is the start. We're looking at the occasion, at the game occasion from beginning to end. And the focus of it being with fiscal responsibility being a cash transactional event.
Mm-hmm.
The request was to look at all the aspects of cash of a game, which would include any startup cash. and going through the event and kind of, again, observing or documenting things as far as from a cash perspective in the cash transaction.
Give
So,
you-
yes,
Yeah, give you.
petty cash, startup cash.
I think the form language needs to be changed because I'll give you about a dozen halls
Yeah.
that if I ask them what their petty cash is, it's $50 to $100. If I ask them what their starting cash for the session is, for the occasion, or the bank, it's gonna be $5,000.
Okay.
So it's two totally different uses, funds sources. And so my suggestion would be, don't use petty cash because most people are gonna say, it's just a few dollars we have, as opposed to the startup. That's all I got.
Any other questions or comments? We'll conclude that. And, we look forward to continuing working with you on that. If you'll just let us know when you're ready for us to chip in, we'll chip in.
And if there's still any other comments or recommendations, suggestions, and you get in the same format, submitting them through our emails or through Carmen, they're still welcome.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Okay, moving on to illegal bingo matters. Victor Kuykendall was chair on that. Victor, I just want to say that, as a public member, we appreciate you taking this and running with it. You've done a fantastic job and, you can't leave or go anywhere. We're keeping you.
Well, thank you very much, Chairman. So our subcommittee was to address some illegal bingo matters in the state. In my short term of serving on this committee, from the very beginning, I've heard several industry members talk about how illegal operations are negatively influencing their legal and regulated businesses. It kind of ties back into reduction of people that are participating in these games and impacts to the revenue that streams from those legal games by using illegal methods of conducting charitable bingos, quote unquote. So part of the education for myself and also to kind of really dive deep into this issue, we kind of identified 4 overreaching issues that kind of have a lot of issues underneath them. The low-hanging fruit here are obviously going to be those that are already licensed and regulated by the department. Those that are conducting fake or abusing charitable bingo operations, and those who are conducting bingo or having bingo halls that are actually just a pseudo bingo halls that are actually trying to run like game room operations and with illegal slot machine devices and things like that. So I want to emphasize here, and first of all, let me commend the committee members that participate in the subcommittee, Veronica Regas, Jason Poole, along with invited subject matter experts and industry members, Stephen Finolio and Ann Mazuka, along with TBLR staff. I can't say enough how much Chief John Graham, being part of this meeting, helped us as far as getting some of the challenges of addressing this issue to the forefront and allowing him to hear firsthand what those issues are and under the recommendations, because these bullet points do not touch upon the lengthy conversation we really had in the subcommittee meeting. And so with him being there, you can actually hear the context in which these issues came up and what those recommendations were in detail, because it was a very lengthy conversation. So when I talk about these things, we're talking about the low-hanging fruits here first for the ones that are regulated, those that are maybe abusing charitable bingo by existing only on paper, skimming off the top, using proceeds being for personal use, things of that nature, along with running basically a gaming hall under a bingo hall license. So the harder and the bigger challenge is, because those are the ones we know. The bigger issue, and probably the ones that's really having the most impact, those that are being conducted online or through social media. Um, these operations are not just in Texas, and I can tell you, Chief, you have to probably uh, correct me on this, but I think from our conversation, you said you had somewhere between 9 and 12 agents for the entire state of Texas. I don't know exactly what the number was. For some reason, I think it was 9, and I can barely see in the background. But understand that their duties not just encompass bingo operations, but they also have to deal with lottery operations as well. So they're not just dedicated strictly to bingo. And we're talking about the state of Texas, 254 counties. Some of those counties are places like Harris County, Houston, Dallas County, Bexar County, San Antonio, things of that nature. These are huge cities. It is a vast state, and they're not just centralized in Texas. Some of these illegal operations are conducting their operations from other states, some of them even from outside this country. So the bandwidth for the TDLR law enforcement officers to be able to investigate these things, they have to be very defined as far as what they're going to start working on, and trying to figure out which ones directly relate to either those violations committed by licensed bingo operators and those who are conducting illegal bingo operations. Past that is they really don't have the bandwidth to deal with it. The other thing is they're going to have to turn around and prioritize their investigations, looking at the most egregious operators or the most egregious crimes, and trying to bring the other ones into compliance through education of the laws and a pathway forward to come into compliance. So that kind of delineates where they're going to focus on probably the worst of the worst as far as their true law enforcement deals, understanding that these type of investigations are very complex. I know for firsthand that they'll take place. It takes from beginning to end. That's from the beginning to the investigation all the way to the end of the successful prosecution. It takes months and might have years to come to a conclusion. So when we're talking about these social media bingos, I think it seems to be a recurring theme that we're talking about. I don't want to focus just on the tip of the iceberg, which is just the illegal game itself. We talked with Chief Graham and said, look, when we're talking about bingo operations and just illegal gaming, there's a large part of that that's underneath there that's talking about how they're funneling their money, their financial crimes, tax evasion, things like that. So we're going to have to do a little bit broader scope as far as being able to address those issues, which they're going to have to coordinate it and with state, local, and federal agencies in order to be successful to investigate these things. They can't do it all themselves, or not. We just don't have the funding or the bandwidth to address it. The other aspect of the challenge to working towards addressing this issue is that the Texas gambling law itself is very ambiguous. Not only does Texas have certain things that are legalized, like bingo, lottery, things of that nature, but what it seems to be a bigger issue is that local enforcement and prosecution, it varies vastly between one county and the next. You can go to a prosecutor in one county and they'll be okay with taking a case, where you go to a county immediately adjacent to it and the prosecutor won't even take your case. And so that prosecution from one jurisdiction to the next becomes a huge challenge for them in order to address it. So we came up with a number of recommendations. This is not exhaustive, but it's what we believe that may help the department address these issues. Is for those low-hanging fruits, they already doing these cease and desist letter campaigns to help educate operators and the consequences of conducting the illegal bingo. And what we're talking about here is those who are making honest mistakes. They're committing violations because they just don't know any better, or they just, they're saying, hey, it's in a gray area. I think that this is okay. They send them a letter saying that's not okay. This is what it says. But hey, it's not just important enough to tell them you can't do this. What I like about it is that they're saying you can't do this, but we're going to help you get there if you're willing to work with us to get you back on the right path. But like I talked about before, let's not just target the actual gambling operation itself. Let's talk about all the underliners. Focus on where the payment and the banking processes take place. Explore options to freeze those accounts and seize gambling proceeds. Take away some of the attractiveness of conducting these things that are outside necessarily just a criminal prosecution. Because I'll be honest with you, if I was in a jurisdiction where another prosecutor is not going to pursue it, there's no, and all I'm worried about is them coming after after me or my people conducting illegal games, and I know they're not going to prosecute it. But if I lose my money that I'm gaining from it, that may be enough of a deterrent to get out of that type of operation or get right and become a legal bingo operation. The other thing is, and this is not going to be something that, obviously the commission can do, but maybe, well, they're asked to probably do it, but this is going to have to also come from industry members, see if you can work with legislators, to close some of those loopholes, enabling some of these activities, increase the agency's ability to issue suspensions and to take more immediate actions through injunctions and things like that. We've talked about partnering with other agencies to help address these things that are not just happening in Texas, but also to expand these investigations in money laundering, wire fraud, tax crimes, go after asset forfeitures, things of that nature. One of the big issues, and I don't know, and it's going to be an ongoing thing because online and social media gaming is becoming a very prominent thing that's going on right now with technology. And there seems to be somewhat of a pushback or a lack of cooperation from some of these social media platforms and things. So they may have to reach out and work with the Attorney General's office to figure out a way to urge them or to take a more proactive approach in addressing these things, using their social media platforms to engage in these illegal activities. And then last but not least, one of the things that seems to be another issue, they get complaints, but when the complaint comes in, very vague. They say, hey, this is going on, but they don't know when or where or who, in some instances, that helps them actually go out and investigate these crimes. So we want to try to figure out a way to encourage more detailed complaint intake so they can gather that information necessary, and even look with our general counsel and the staff and their staff to see if there's a way that we can capture the email, but yet if an open records comes in, something of that nature, we can withhold that email address so that it allows us to, even though the complainant may want to remain anonymous, that they have a way to reach back out and gather additional information. Because right now they're saying, hey, they're running an illegal bingo hall over here in somewhat Texas. And that's all the information they get. They don't know when it's going to take place. They don't know where exactly it's taking place. So gathering that information will help them address those issues more. And again, this is just a broad points, but hopefully these recommendations, which Chief Graham was there and heard, he could try to work these things out and implement some of this stuff and help address this issue. But this is going to be it's always been a huge issue in Texas as far as illegal gaming. And a lot of stuff is going to be incumbent upon not just the local, but other state and federal agencies to help address. And there's just not a lot of desire, I think, because of the length of these investigations and the challenges. It's very difficult for many agencies to dive into. If you have any questions, I'm welcome to answer them. But that's my presentation. Basically, this wraps up this part of our subcommittee, unless there's a national need to look at further recommendations or issues.
Thank you, Victor. We appreciate that very much. Very thorough job. Any questions or comments on that? Okay. All right, we're gonna move on to item I, recommendations for agenda items for the next committee meeting. Do you have any, does anybody have any recommendations as of now for the next committee?
But it needs to be before that deadline to the commissioners so we can comment on the comment.
Can
Yeah.
that be done by a Teams meeting? Since it's gonna be different?
No, I mean, you're talking about the next VAC meeting, right?
Yes.
It needs to be after August 17th, after the public
Yeah.
comment
Our
period
next one's
closes.
September 17th.
September 17th, just enough.
Wasn't her date September 15th? That she needed our deal before September 15th, is what she said.
Yeah, assuming the dates the earlier dates were held, yes.
Yeah, so we come in at the 17th, that's after the fact, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that's not gonna work.
Okay.
Yep. It was sometime between August 17th and September 15th
Correct.
would be the window, yeah.
I guess we need to, can we have a virtual meeting to discuss just that one agenda item and keep the regular meeting, or should we just do everything on a virtual? I'm good either way. We can do whatever, but we want to definitely do it by the dates you need us to.
Sure.
I can swing.
I didn't hear.
I can get that going for you.
Okay, so we'll do that. So we'll have a virtual meeting sometime in August then,
Yes.
and then we'll have our regular meeting in September. Will that satisfy that?
As far as I know, yes. And if there's any change in the schedule, I'll make sure you know.
Okay, excellent.
Carmen will, I'll
Yeah.
back through Carmen.
All right. Okay. Any other, agenda items?
No. But they didn't.
Could I say something about the rulemaking process? There seems to be a lot of confusion about the dates. TDLR has had a long-standing process of allowing advisory, as a courtesy, to have the advisory boards look at rules twice.
Right.
That's the reason that we bring it to you a second time after the public comment, to make you aware of the public comment received and to take any remaining remarks from the advisory boards before we make our final recommendations to the commission.
Gotcha.
The process is defined in the law, but we bring it a second time to advisory boards as a courtesy. A lot of agencies don't do that. We've found great value in it, and our advisory boards have also, and I realize you all are still learning the process. If that doesn't work, we could consider a change, but I would recommend you keep that because it's a summary from us to you of what those public comments contained, and one more chance to discuss it before it ultimately goes to the commission. So I wanted to make sure you know why TDLR takes that tact and the value of it.
No, we appreciate that. That's why I wanna be in that date range.
Yeah,
Okay.
You know,
we just want to make sure
I
we're
think the September
satisfied.
date should work fine for the August public comment period.
Oh, okay.
But we'll get back to you after more discussion, but it seems like the timeframe should work for that. But I wanted you all to know the sentiment behind that second opportunity.
I think it's
Love
great.
it. We think it's awesome. I can guarantee you that. It's really nice to have that. Yeah, I think we were just trying to satisfy the date need that you needed from us.
Yeah.
That we can do whatever we need for you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I'd move to make a recommendation that we meet on the 25th. That way we have a little bit of time to look at any additional public comments to come in with the, this being the only agenda item for that meeting.
Okay, well, we've got to work through Carmen on that, and I think they're
Yeah,
gonna figure out the date and they're gonna get with us on that. They'll send out an email or a phone call and let us know what we're gonna need to do for that.
Very good. Thank you.
For the virtual.
Yes, sir.
I will know for sure once they're published in text version.
Gotcha.
So that day will actually determine the 30-day period. So there may be a little bit more time.
Excellent.
Hard to know at this point.
Well, we're at your convenience for that.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, got item I and J already nailed down. and we'll be hearing from the comment on that, whatever we need to do. Thank y'all all very much for your time and your considerations on all the subcommittees. I know that was a lot of work. I am going to call the Bingo Advisory Committee adjourned at 11:20. Thank you very much.